Hello, guys, and welcome to Odds on Premier League Matchday 19. Happy New Year. Let's start analyzing the Premier League with Tom Rennie. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing very well. Happy New Year, everybody. Did you have a lovely time? How's your hangover, Edu? You doing well?
I'm well. Ready to try to win some money. Tom, with you. Are you hungover?
No, I've got a 6-month-old baby, so I was in bed by 9:30. It was a great New Year.
Okay. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the new year. And let's start analyzing this new match day. Of course, remember, leave your comments, press the like, and subscribe. And now let's go on, Tom. Tom is an absolute legend. We already have good comments. Tom, with you, perhaps, starting with the first game, Brentford-Liverpool, because you were spot on Brentford beating West Ham, Tony scoring again, and this is a tough game for Liverpool. Liverpool to win is only 1.6, but we have to say also that the Reds, Tom, back-to-back victories after the World Cup, but again, it's not easy to win in this stadium in West London.
Yeah, I got to say that this little grouping of fixtures here across the next 4 days, nasty fixtures. There's lots of money to be won, but there's lots of risk involved here in any prediction because all the games look quite even. All the billings look quite well matched up. And we're getting to the turn of the season now where results are really important. Brentford didn't play particularly well at West Ham. I think a lot of their victory over West Ham was just how bad West Ham are at this moment in time. They had one venture over the halfway line on around 20 minutes and scored from a long throw. A second one before halftime and scored again. And that's about it for the entire game for Brentford. So they're not playing amazingly well and certainly didn't in that game. But West Ham are so pathetic right now that they could get beaten by a selection of kittens in football kits. So it was good. Good win for Brentford. The trouble going into this game is that Ivan Toney is likely missing. And as much as they've got good players, as much as the midfield was impressive against West Ham. I thought Mads Roslev in particular on the right played really well. Brian Mbeumo. Ivan Toney is the star player, and he's the star player by some distance. Injured late on against West Ham. They're saying late fitness test currently, but he looks like he's going to be missing for this one. Brentford currently on an unbeaten streak of 2 victories in that time. They've beaten Man United at home this season very impressively. Apart from the Arsenal game at home, they've been great at home against most teams. So it's a really difficult place to go. But Liverpool have turned the corner. Liverpool, I think, have turned the corner now. 4 straight wins, 2 since coming back. Darwin Núñez impressive again. Mo Salah impressive again. I think just as importantly too, they've been able to get Robertson, Matip, Van Dijk and Alexander-Arnold back together again across the back line. Something they'd not been able to do a lot this season. And Darwin Núñez, we mentioned, so the forward line is looking better. There's still issues in midfield, but even that, they're starting to get a more settled group of players playing in midfield, not having to just see who's fit this week, which makes a big difference for Liverpool. It is worth noting, still no Diogo Jota, still no Luis Diaz, and 1 or 2 others missing as well. Cody Gakpo has signed, but I don't think he'll be playing in this game, but we shall see. It's a 9-man bench these days, so there's a possibility he may well come on. Look, I think that Brentford are going to huff and puff in this game. I don't think they'll get thrashed in the same way that Liverpool do to other teams, but I do think we're not going to get a Liverpool performance similar to the one at Nottingham Forest. I'd be looking here for Darwin Núñez to assist in this match. Don't back Darwin Núñez to score. I wouldn't be surprised to see the score level at half-time, but as the game goes on, Liverpool end up winning it. So I'd be looking at level at half-time. Liverpool win the game. Darwin Núñez assist not to score, and I wouldn't fancy Brentford to score if Ivan Toney's missing. If Toney's there, you might want to look at the draw market of 4.5. But no Ivan Toney, I don't think any chance for Brentford. Liverpool win without conceding.
All right, tough game, this one for Liverpool. Remember, only 1 defeat at home for Brentford, 3 defeats already for Liverpool on the road, but most of the people here actually trust the Reds to grab the victory in London, or perhaps, as Bonjovu is going, for the corners market. We start the year strongly because we have a very good game, Brentford Liverpool, and the next one, Tom, first against the second, Arsenal Newcastle. I think at this stage of the year, already this soon, after the second day, the Arsenal supporters can already believe that they can win this Premier League. 8 points clear from Man City. They grabbed an impressive victory in the south of England against Brighton, back-to-back victories after the break, and 9 out of 10 games won in the Premier League. Everything is absolutely impressive for Arsenal, and this is another big test, of course, Newcastle.
Yeah, they were great against Brighton for spells on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, were Arsenal. I think that what was quite interesting in that game was that, firstly, you haven't noticed the absence of Gabriel Jesus because Eddie Nketiah has played very well. Plus, Martin Odegaard, sensational again in the game against Brighton. The midfield base of Xhaka and Partey is versatile and energetic, and they look in good form. The issue for Arsenal, quite interestingly, was that when they took off Ben White and they took off Zinchenko, they brought on Tomiyasu and they brought on Kieran Tierney, two players who have struggled for fitness all season. And suddenly you thought, oh, there's issues here. And that's something we've been speaking about a lot. If the first team is missing, the second team, certainly currently, isn't as good as the first team. So hopefully that means that Ben White and Zinchenko were taken off through caution as opposed to injury. If they're both fit and the first choice backline is there, you can almost name the Arsenal team yourselves watching. And I expect them to get on the front foot, play some very good football and create chances. The issue is for them is that Newcastle won't be afraid. You know, some teams have been afraid this season, I think, to play Arsenal, and understandably so. But Newcastle have got 15 points on the road, 4 victories, 3 draws, just the 1 defeat. Beaten Leicester easy peasy the other day, thrashed Southampton before they went away, went to Tottenham and won. They go on the road and score. So the first thing I've been looking at here is both teams score. I think both teams are going to be able to score in this match. I think if you're looking for a Newcastle goal scorer, look no further than the incredibly impressive Miguel Almiron. It's now 9 goals in the Premier League this season for Almiron, which is an incredible amount considering I think he'd barely scored that in his entire Newcastle career before this campaign. It's a huge game, this. It's a huge game in terms of the season. It's a huge game in terms of Newcastle making a statement, and it's a huge game in terms of Arsenal trying to win the Premier League and indeed keep the challengers at bay as well. I think both teams to score is a very safe market, looking at how many goals they've scored this season. I think the draw at 4-1 is a really interesting market. Draw on both teams to score is my personal pick for this one. I wouldn't pick Newcastle to win despite a 4.5-1 ratio because I can't see Arsenal losing it. I can certainly see Newcastle scoring the first goal and Arsenal coming back to either draw or win. So there's a real chance there. But my personal pick is draw and both teams score.
All right, good odds for both teams to score. We have Garrick saying Newcastle to score first, Pablo going for Arsenal, but most of the people also think that there will be goals, over 2.5 goals. Actually, the victory, I mean, Arsenal is really, really favorite for this game. Still not bad odds for the top of the table, but of course, really favorite to beat Newcastle. Next game, this is very important for Everton. Brighton, I think everyone was absolutely surprised by them getting a point against Man City. No one could see that coming after that great goal scored by Gray, but still, Tom, Everton are in trouble. They show it also at home against Wolves after the break, and Brighton, they lost at home, as we just said, against Arsenal after that impressive victory against Southampton. The last game they played away was a victory against Southampton.
Yeah, tricky game this one because, you know, Everton are in a bit of trouble, but also there's a long way to go in the season. And if you're in the bottom 3, bottom 4, bottom 5, you're 2 wins away from the top half. It's still really tight. No one has fallen away as yet, despite the fact that Everton have struggled for points along with the other teams down there at the moment. You're not adrift. No one is adrift yet in the Premier League. So not desperate times for Everton yet, and a really good point against Manchester City. Despite that, I continue with the narrative of who's going to score for them. A good 60 minutes for Dominic Calvert-Lewin the other day, but doesn't look like a particular goal threat at this moment in time. What's the pattern of attack for Everton? I'm not sure. And you can't rely on Damari Gray to score a wonder goal every week. He does it maybe 2 or 3 times a season, but 3 goals a season doesn't really amount to a hill of beans for anyone in this division. You look at their home form, Everton, they have won, I think, 2 games from their 8, 2 draws, 4 defeats. They don't score many, just 7 scored all season at Goodison Park. I don't see them scoring many in this game. Their only hope, I think, is to score the first goal and try and shut the opponent down. And you can shut Brighton down. They're a tricky team, Brighton, because they will have over 65% of possession. I expect them to have over 15 shots in this game. But are they going to get into penetrative positions where they're going to score? And that's the ongoing discussion with Brighton. They're more offensive now than when Graham Potter was there. But still, there's no focal point. It's unlikely in this game that Danny Welbeck is going to be fit. So there isn't really another striker at the club. Leandro Trossard has valiantly played there this season, but it doesn't look like his position. So maybe Evan Ferguson, who came on and scored the other day, the teenager, the Irish lad, against Arsenal. He came on and made a big difference. Maybe he'll get the nod up front and give them a focal point. They are lacking, and I think that De Zerbi will know that they lack that as well. Away from home, Brighton been very impressive all season long. 13 points, 4 victories. It's tricky because Everton need this win so bad. But all the indicators point to me to Brighton being the better team and being able to score goals. They have fleet-footed players against a pretty stubborn, knock-it-out kind of defence. I think the draw market's really interesting here. I'd be looking at Everton playing for corners and getting over 5 in this game. I think Brighton have over 65% possession, and I'd double chance it with Brighton. Brighton are 2-1 to win, or they're 4-1 to draw. So there's a nice double chance market in there, and I might even be looking at knocking a goal off from Brighton and Brighton going on to win this game by a couple. I just feel like if Brighton score the first goal, they could win by a few and put Everton in serious trouble. But draw market 4-1, that's what I'm looking at.
We were checking actually the tip section in our website, and most of the people were going also for the double chance, and many people here are going also, Tom, for the draw. Do you see an under? For instance, we have George going for under 2.5 goals. Usually this is good in Everton games.
Yes, I would definitely look at the under, not the over. The only scenario where there's lots of goals here is if Brighton get lots of them. That's the only scenario, and that would be Everton concede first. They push on to try and attack. Brighton hit them on the break and score 2 or 3 goals. That's the only scenario you get more than 2 in this game. So under, yes, definitely.
Next game, Tom, Leicester, Fulham. Very interesting one because we see Leicester as favourites, as we can see. But since the break, back-to-back defeats for Leicester, and they are only 3 points away from relegation. And Fulham, back-to-back victories, and they are impressively 7th in the standings. Should we back Fulham? Why not?
Well, I certainly won't back Leicester. I'll tell you that. You know, they have players missing, but most crucially, James Maddison. That little revival they had before the World Cup was built on James Maddison. The goals they've scored this season were built on James Maddison. And we're told James Maddison, as we record today, is not going to be available. And if that's the case, you know, he's such an important player. It's so important to have a player in form on your team. And they've got one, and he's not available. And that's a huge loss for Leicester City, who continue to concede poor goals, who continue to not score as many goals without Maddison playing. Their home form this season in general has been pretty poor. Just 2 victories across the campaign, 9 goals scored. For Fulham, you know, Fulham are a team right now riding the crest of a wave. I think at some point it will fall apart for them, but at this point, they're almost safe in the Premier League already with 25 points. There are teams down there, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, that aren't going to get 35 points. And so Fulham are 10 from safety, maybe 9 from safety. That's 3 wins from half a season required, and they're going to be in the Premier League again next season. So maybe the tail-off will come at the back end. No surprise to me to see them pick up a victory a couple of days ago against Southampton. No surprise as well for me. They beat Crystal Palace the game before, though it wasn't in circumstances I predicted. Look, I wouldn't touch Leicester here. There's a great bet on for a double chance for Fulham and the draw. Draws at 3s. Fulham just under that, around about 2.5, 2.9. That will go up again before the game. I'd be looking here at Fulham win without conceding and look at doubling it up with a Mitrovic goal. But there's a great easy money double chance here. Leicester at 2-1, Leicester at home. I am not confident even at 2-1, Leicester winning it. So Look at all sorts of Fulham victory. And also look at the market where we're level at half-time and Fulham go on to win it late on. Fulham score the opening goal, I think, is a pretty confident bet for me here.
Very good odds to back Fulham. Most of the people actually are going for the double chance for the away team in this one. It's hard to find good odds in the next one. Tom, the last game we have on Tuesday is Man United Bournemouth, with Man United already in Champions League spots. They got a 0-1 victory against Wolves, exactly the same score as last season. And right now they won 4 out of the last 5. I guess we expect them to beat Bournemouth because they lost 6 out of the last 7. But the odds, as we can expect, very low for Man United to win, 1.3 only.
Yeah, it's back to the old days with Manchester United. That there was some money to be made, as we mentioned last week, 2-1 last week to win. That was easy money, and I hope everyone made it in their previous victory, Manchester United against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Bit dicey at the end. I felt very comfortable when Rashford scored that second. When it was disallowed, I was nervy again, but I hope everyone backed it. So back to 1.2, 1.3, low money. You get no money on a Man United win against Bournemouth. Bournemouth not in the relegation zone, despite their recent drop-off in form. And that says more about Everton, West Ham, Forest, Wolves and Southampton than it does about a Bournemouth team who I think will finish second, bottom come the end of this season and be relegated. So what are the markets here? Asian handicap, I think Man United will score 3 goals. So go -2 for an Asian handicap for a Manchester United win. You'll get some decent money there, 5, 6s. Marcus Rashford, despite being rested after turning up late to a meeting because he slept too long or something stupid like that against Wolves, I think he comes back in the team. And you've got to look for form goal scorers. Right now, Marcus Rashford, along with the likes of Miguel Almiron, are the form goal scorers in the Premier League. So Man United win, Marcus Rashford scores, no goals for Bournemouth in this game as well. Asian handicap it for -2. And look, if you feel brave, I'm not recommending you do this, but I can see this being a drubbing, a real drubbing here. Something that Man United have been threatening to do to a few teams over the last few. Could have beaten Forest by more, took their foot off the gas. Could have beaten West Ham by more, the way that game went. Took their foot off the gas and nearly allowed West Ham in. I think Man United are going to drub somebody, going to thrash somebody. So why not Bournemouth? I'm going to go minimum 3-0 with a Rashford goal. If you went 5, I think there's money to be made.
And Bournemouth already got thrashed, remember, by Liverpool some weeks ago. So, for instance, Niels is going for Man United Asian handicap -2, Man United to win 2-0. There are different options to back Man United here. Next game, the scary game of the week, the 2 worst teams so far in the Premier League. Tom, Southampton Forest, and we see Southampton really favorite for this game. Difficult to back them. 5 consecutive defeats for Southampton. If we take in consideration the recent form, Tom, Forest, they are doing better. Only 1 defeat in the last 4.
Well, I wouldn't touch Southampton at 2-1. I don't understand that, really. I think that they should be a lot further out than that, considering the way the season has gone for the Saints. The fact that they've got a new manager who doesn't quite have the Premier League experience. They've got a terrible home record, worst in the league this season, with just 6 points and 9 goals scored and 1 victory. And some of the draws they've got this season, you know, I think of the West Ham game, the Tottenham game, they should have been thrashed. And they got something from those matches. So very poor at home again, Southampton. And there's no scenario where I'll be putting any of my money on Southampton to win. In terms of Nottingham Forest, 1 victory in their last 5. I think they were reasonably impressive at points against Chelsea, though Chelsea was so under par, it's hard to assess how good Nottingham Forest were. But I think if you're looking at this game, I think that's quite nice, around 4-1 for Nottingham Forest. I think the draw as well at 3.5 is an obvious double chance here for Forest to draw or win. But I would go straight up Forest win. I think Forest have a better work ethic. They've got more physicality in midfield than Southampton have got, who get overrun often. I think they've got goal threat in Morgan Gibbs-White, in Jesse Lingard, who hopefully will be fit, in Taiwo Awoniyi. They've got people who can score goals. So I think both teams score because defenses are reasonably weak. But I would go Nottingham Forest win, both teams score, but Nottingham Forest just to win at 4-1. That is worth a punt. That is worth a tenner of your money, I think, because Forest are more likely, in my view, to win this than Southampton. The home form, the threat of relegation, the goal threat, it's all there for a Forest win at 4-1.
Well, people agree with you. Actually, most of them are going for both teams to score or Forest have chance, for instance. And Niels is asking you, Tom, if you go near Taiwo Awoniji to get one shot on target at least.
Oh, I thought you were going to say to score. I don't know about to score, but one shot on target, maybe. The issue with Awani, firstly, is if he's going to play, because Steve Cooper, he changes it around massively. So there's an issue there. If Lingard comes back, he might get dropped. And the second element is he plays him quite wide. So often it's Gibbs, White, or Johnson through the centre. And Awani goes wide, which I don't think works. So would I back him? If he starts, I think he will have one shot on target. But if he starts, if he's doing a lot of heavy lifting.
Okay, this is the scary game of the week, but also the next one. Leeds, West Ham, because we have Leeds only 2 points away from relegation, and we have West Ham only 1 point away from the bottom three. And perhaps, Tom, it's time to let David Moyes go, no? 5 consecutive defeats. You mentioned in the previous video that if West Ham loses against Brentford and this one against Leeds, Moyes should be sacked.
Has to go. Has to go. I went to the Brentford game the other day, and he changed formation, but he played 5 defenders in a must-win home game. So very Moyes. They actually looked good for 10 minutes, but the moment Ivan Toney scored, they literally crossed the halfway line, had a throw, scored from the throw, and the game was over. West Ham's problem is scoring goals. David Moyes plays better when he knows he's starting 11 and can play it week in, week out. At the moment, he's bought Lucas Paqueta for reasons unknown. He's bought Gianluca Scamacca for reasons unknown. He's not been able to play Max Cornet. And then suddenly, he doesn't know what to do. I think that David Moyes looks like a man out of ideas. They look like a team desperate for new ideas. They're a way better squad than potentially bottom of the table come the end of midweek. And he's lost 11 of 17. Burnley went down last season having lost just 17 games. So he's 6 off a team that got relegated last season and we're still not at the halfway point. It's diabolical. Like it's being underreported how diabolical it is for West Ham right now. And he can't afford to even draw this game, frankly. He's got to go to Leeds and win. West Ham are playing in a gutless, spineless, idealist, pathetic way. And David Moyes, I think, has lost it. He's lost it completely. In time, he might get it back. I'm not sure he's got any time left. And I think if they lose this game, he should be sacked. Frankly, having been at the game the other day, he should have gone after the defeat against Brentford because they had no idea how to change it. It was awful. So I wonder what he's going to do here, David Moyes. Personally, what I would do is bring in someone like Pablo Fornals. I'd bring in Flynn Downs. I'd try and have some energy in midfield, which you've got to have against Leeds United. Naya Faguer, who has somehow been an employee of West Ham for 6 months and barely kicked a football. I don't care how ill he is. He's got to play. They go back to 4 at the back. They play 3 in midfield. They should go 3 up front with Antonio, Bowen, and Benrahma. And they've got to try and match Leeds' energy whilst also keeping the football. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it. Frankly, I wouldn't touch West Ham with anyone's money right now. 5 defeats in a row. If they win this, it will be a shock. I'm surprised they're at 2.7, 2.8. I thought West Ham should be about 5-1 for this game. So crap have they been. As for Leeds, really impressed with their defensive performance against Newcastle. I'm not sure many of us saw that coming. He's kind of gone with a 4 centre-halves Tony Pulis thing recently, Jesse Marsh. And you've got to break Leeds down. And also they look better defensively when Tyler Adams is back, which he was in the game against Newcastle. Similar to West Ham in a way, it's goal-scoring threat. Who's going to score for Leeds? I think if Joe Gelhardt plays and not Rodrigo, they've got more of a goal threat. But, it's a tough one, this one. I think because West Ham are so rubbish, there's no way you could bet on them. So what do? You go for a Leeds United victory at 2.5. That in itself is a risk. This is an avoid game for me. But if you're going to pick something out, I'd be looking at Leeds win without conceding. Leeds win without conceding. I'd be looking as well at Leeds win both halves. Leeds win the first half by a 0-0. Leeds win the second half by a 0-0. West Ham don't look like scoring against anybody ever. And certainly not in this game. They're going to be overrun. They're going to be outfought. They're going to be beaten. Leeds win. And by the next time we record, David Moyes should be sacked.
Most of the people actually are going for Leeds, Tom, because the odds are very good. 2.6. Armin is asking you if perhaps the players are going against David Moyes.
No, I don't think that. I think they're underperforming and are desperately in need of confidence and a game plan. I don't think players have down tools. I think they're just drained. And the players they brought in during the summer, I mean, Lucas Paqueta will be a good player for someone, but not this manager in this team. And they spent £60 million on him. Appalling signing. Appalling signing. Gianluca Scamacca. If you wanted to bring him in, you had to have a way to use him. And they've got no idea how to use him apart from tossing in low-grade diagonals to him. He's not Peter Crouch. So why are you playing as such? So they bought badly in the summer, spent a ridiculous amount of money. Moyes should take responsibility for that. I don't think the players have down tools. I just think they don't know what they're doing. And the team selection against Brentford, random team that we've never seen before in a random formation, shows that. He's panicking. The players think he's going to go, and he should have gone already.
Okay, and the other team involved in this relegation battle is Wolves playing against Aston Villa. We have a clash of Spanish managers, Lopetegui against Unai Emery, and this Aston Villa actually looks very, very good. Tom, 3 victories in the last 4 since Unai Emery took charge, and the last victory was in White Hart Lane against Spurs.
Yeah, they have looked pretty decent. And the loss against Liverpool, I thought they played quite well as well, Aston Villa. You know, Unai Emery is a terrific manager. I think it's an incredible get for Aston Villa. I think that if Douglas Luiz is fit, who I rate highly, he looks like a player reborn. I think he was incredibly miserable under Steven Gerrard for the first few months of the season. Plus, he wanted that move to Arsenal, which never materialised. So him being back to form and confidence has made a big difference. Boubacar Kamara in midfield alongside him grows with every single game that I see them. And I think that he is allowing people like Leon Bailey, who don't get much right, to keep making mistakes. And that suggests confidence in the camp. So all good currently at Aston Villa. And I think they'll end in the top half come the end of this season. For Wolverhampton Wanderers, they won at Everton, but it was a smash and grab. They did not play well. They're still an incredibly negative team. I think they will sit real deep here and try and stop Aston Villa. And I think for a while they will. But I can only see an Aston Villa victory. I can only see Aston Villa gradually grinding out a result here. There's not a great deal of goal threat, I think, still at Wolverhampton Wanderers. There's still no focal point. So I think that you're looking at Villa with 60 or 70% possession. I'd be looking at Villa to have over 15 shots in this match to Wolves 5. And I think the goals come late on. Still 0-0 at the half. Still 0-0 at the hour. Maybe still 0 at 80 minutes. But I think Villa go on to win it as the game goes on. Villa over Wolves, and Wolves don't score.
Good odds actually around 2. Niels and Garrick are saying both teams to score. I'm surprised, to be honest, taking in consideration that we have Lopetegui and Unai Emery. Hassan is going for the under 2.5 goals. I think, Tom, this is more likely, as you were saying, 1 goal win it, perhaps for Aston Villa. And still we have one more game on Wednesday's Crystal Palace Tottenham. And now there are so many questions arising around Antonio Conte. Another defeat for Spurs, only 2 victories in the last 7, and the victories were like in the very last minute against Bournemouth and Leeds. And it's tough for Conte and for the Spurs going now to Selhurst Park. This is a tough one for Tottenham.
Tough one. And I think that Crystal Palace at 3.5 to 4 to 1 come the game is well worth your time here. Because Palace defensively, incredibly well organised. I think in Anderson and Gay, they've got one of the best pairings in the league, as we saw as they came back together again in the last game. I think good defence in front of them. And I think on the break, on the counter, people like Elise and Eze and Zaha have proved time and time again, with green grass in front of them and defenders backpedaling, you could be in serious trouble. The issue here for Palace is that Tottenham don't want the ball. And normally when you play against big teams, favourites, big squads, world-class players, they have the ball and you can hit them on the break. But Tottenham play like that. Tottenham play like underdogs and they'll try and spit the ball back as quick as possible. So I can see a scenario here where it's 0-0 the entire game and neither team can get behind the other because they sit so deep and aren't interested in attacking or dominating the ball. If Crystal Palace score the first goal here, I think they could go on to run riot because Tottenham's confidence levels are so low. Lloris is playing poorly. Romero looks disinterested. Dyer's playing poorly. Yves Bissouma's had a terrible season since coming in from Brighton and hasn't offered a great deal. And what's happened to Son? Where is Son Heung-min? What's happened to him? Is it confidence? Is it fitness? Is it the way the manager is playing him? I know that he's a player that likes to play with a bit of exuberance, and Antonio Conte is delivering a turgid style of football. And I think in the end, players have enough of it. We spoke about that with David Moyes earlier. In the end, I've had enough of this. I want to play football. I'm a footballer. I want to get forward and entertain and enjoy it and score, not just hang on and hope for the best and we'll nick one on the break. And so there's a chance everyone's had enough of Antonio Conte. Usually they've won the league first before that happens, but he's at Tottenham and that was never going to happen. So 4-1, Crystal Palace, lovely. I'd take that all day. I think the draw market of 4-1, lovely. Take that all day. I think Tottenham concede first, as they have in their last 7, I think, Premier League games now. I think it's 10 in all competitions they've conceded the first goal. So keep that run going. Palace score the opening goal. More likely the draw from that. Both teams score. And I would say the draw 4-1. Maybe under 2.5 in a draw. That's a 1-1 draw.
Okay, double chance, for instance, for Crystal Palace. That's a good one with good odds as well. And if Tottenham are underperforming, we can say exactly the same from Chelsea. And this is a good one. Chelsea, Man City, also Graham Potter being criticized, and people are starting to miss Tuchel. Another disappointing draw against Forest, really far from European spots, only 1 victory in the last 7. And they are welcoming Man City. Also, Tom, I think we didn't expect Man City in this stage of the season with 2 draws and 2 defeats.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Chelsea because the game against Nottingham Forest was bizarre. A bizarre game in that Chelsea took the lead but did nothing to really lead in the game. They weren't dominating. They weren't creating chances. They weren't fast and furious and brilliant. They just nicked a goal. And all they did, Nottingham Forest, was allow Thiago to have the ball, and he kept carrying him forward. And you were like, oh, Chelsea could win this 4 or 5-0 if they could, but they couldn't get into that next gear. Kai Havertz, I don't know why he's leading the line, probably because Potter doesn't rate Aubameyang at this point in his career. Mr. Sitter late on against Nottingham Forest. Apart from Christian Pulisic, no one comes out of the Forest game for me with any credit. Still not sure Raheem Sterling's role. Still not sure what the right midfield makeup is. Dennis Zakaria played quite well, but for some reason can't get through longer than an hour. Kovacic came on, looks way off the pace. So all sorts of problems for Chelsea at this moment in time. The defence looks slow. The offense doesn't work without Reece James and Ben Chilwell, who are injured again. Hakim Ziyech had a great World Cup, but he's always looked disinterested with Chelsea. So would you risk him from the start because he's currently in form? I don't know. And still no N'Golo Conte. And Jorginho, is he right for this incredibly one-pace Chelsea team? So all sorts of issues there. And it's a squad that at the moment doesn't make sense and certainly doesn't look like a Graham Potter team. So there are issues there to solve. And I don't know who's going to score for Chelsea in this game. I really don't. For Man City, should have been out of sight against Everton. Couldn't get that next goal. You've got to give Everton credit for the way they defended, but there was a bit of a feeling in desperate times they just tried to get the ball to Haaland. And that was always going to be a problem when you've got a world-class striker. Try and get in the ball. Feed Haaland, see what you can do. Phil Foden hasn't come back all guns blazing from the World Cup. Jack Grealish is playing because Foden is not in form. And Grealish doesn't quite work, I don't think, with Manchester City. We're not seeing a lot of Bernardo Silva. Kevin De Bruyne has played quite well. But again, it's looking for Haaland, and that's about it. So they're going to need to spice it up a bit here, Man City. And I think they will, with several changes from the team that played Everton a couple of days ago. 2-1 nearly for City to win is a bit rare. So I actually think that could be worth it just on its own here. I don't see a Chelsea win. Even at 6-1, I wouldn't touch them. I think Chelsea are quite poor. I think that Chelsea will not score in this game. I can't see how they score. Look at the over 65 and 70% market for possession for Manchester City. Look at Man City score in the opening 10 minutes. I think they'll blitz Chelsea. Look at Haaland to score in the first 10 minutes in this game. So they will score first, Manchester City. They will score second, Manchester City. And as Chelsea get desperate, I can see a third maybe coming as well in this game. I think big win. For Manchester City, not just a win. Haaland scores. They score in the first 10 minutes and they do not concede. Graham Potter could then be in huge trouble at Chelsea as they'll be in mid-table by that point. And I think City return to winning ways confidently in this match.
Also, we have Garrick saying Chelsea are going to be embarrassed as Stamford Bridge Potter days are coming to an end. Perhaps, Tom, 1.7 for Man City to win. Looks good. Tell me then, Tom, your favorite bet for this match day.
Well, weirdly, despite saying that, I'm not going to go for Man City. I know it's weird, right? But I just really like the look of current Manchester United. I think they are going to beat Bournemouth quite comfortably. Feel free to spice it up if you want to, as we did in the preview, but go for a Man United win against Bournemouth. They're going to win.
Good for Anaka, perhaps adding more games. Tell me then, Yoraka, Tom.
Yeah, I was very annoyed that Newcastle didn't score against Leeds the other day because my 5-1 ACCA fell through on that score. But I'm sticking with the trebles because they've been delivering this season a lot of the time. Bit risky. Man United beat Bournemouth. That's in there. Man City are going to beat Chelsea. That's in there. But also Tottenham win as well against Palace. I know. There's a great chance of Palace. The odds are good, but it does make it 5-1, and you've got to make it a treble to make some money. So again, at 5-1, if you want to switch out Tottenham for someone else, feel free, but they would be my third in the trio.
Thank you, Tom. Thanks, everyone, for watching the Premier League. Take a break after this match day. There are FA Cup games and we have more football. But, Tom, keep enjoying, of course, the football. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And don't forget, press the like and subscribe. Bye-bye, Tom.